electronic equivalent of going around the table and introducing all the participants in today's meeting. My name's George Dixon. I'm the chair of the board and a citizen appointee to the board. Next.
Judith Clapperton, member of the Police Services Board.
I'm Mike Ross. I'm a member of the Police Services Board and Deputy Mayor for the town of Midland.
Morning, everyone. It's David Deno. I'm the CAO for town of Midland.
And I think there are a few other folks too who can introduce themselves. Our OPP officers attending today's meeting and our board secretary.
Good morning. My name is John Graham. I'm the interim detached commander for Southern Georgia Bay. And sitting to the right of me is our regional chief, Dwight Pierre.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. My name's Stuart Strathler, and I'm the mayor of Midland. And I'm sorry I'm late. I was in a position recruitment meeting and lost track of time. I apologize for that.
Good morning. And I think we have one or two other attendees at least.
Yep, I'm acting Staff Sergeant Carolyn Patton from.
Oh.
Thanks.
Good morning, Carolyn.
Hi there, and you've got Staff Sergeant Lee Janot as well.
Good morning, Lee.
I'm Angela Grenier, recording secretary, and we also have Tina Lococo. She's our executive director of corporate services and town solicitor.
Hello, good morning.
So I think if that completes the introductions, the next item on our agenda sheet is the approval of the agenda that's been circulated to all members of the board. So can I have somebody move a motion that the agenda for today's meeting be approved as circulated?
So moved.
Member Clapperton, second.
I second that.
All in favor? That's carried. I'll make one note about the agenda. If we look to item 11, we'll see there's provision in the agenda to conduct a closed session. And I just note that when we get to the item, we can decide, but that closed session will only be necessary if any board member wishes to discuss the current state of outstanding legal matters. Otherwise, a closed session would not be required. So moving on then, item 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Give people a moment. As is usual, there are no pecuniary interests to be declared.
Chair Dixon, Chair Dixon, Deputy Mayor Ross has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give the heads up. I will be asking to go in camera, so I wasn't sure if we need any time to prepare, but I thought instead of waiting right to the very end, I would definitely like an update. So
Okay.
I will be.
Fair enough. So we know that's coming. So item number 4, then, there are no deputations scheduled. Item number 5, we have a set of minutes from our last board meeting. I think we've all had an opportunity to review them. If somebody would care to move adoption of the minutes as printed and circulated.
Mayor Strathern?
I'll move, and Mayor Strathern will second, I see.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
All in favor then? That's carried. Business arising from the minutes. There's one item I just want to briefly make mention of, and that is the fact that we did have a closed session at our last board meeting dealing with an update on outstanding legal matters. That discussion was held in a closed session, and there were no motions arising out of that. So I just wanted to note that for the record. Any other business arising from the minutes? No. Okay, then. Before we move to item number 7, the detachment reports from our detachment commander, there is an item that the regional chief wishes to present to the board. And so if I can depart from the agenda to have that item dealt with now, and I believe that's an item where our board secretary, it includes a slide presentation, and I believe that's a matter where our board secretary will be presenting the slides as we go along.
Inspector Graham, did you want to start with the calls for service report, or did you want to go to the regional chair update?
I'm going to defer to the, I'm going to defer to Chief Dwight Pierre to speak to the Police Services Board as he may have to leave this meeting prematurely for other matters, but I will, and then I will present after that.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman Dixon and Mayor Strathern, I very much appreciate some time to get on your agenda here at your meeting today. Primarily, I just wanted to take some time to introduce myself. I'm Dwight Pierre. I'm the Regional Chief Superintendent for Central Region OPP. Our headquarters is in Orillia on Highway 12 near Memorial. We are not general headquarters. We are the regional headquarters building, and we also house the communication center that services this area as well for calls for service. But I was promoted to Regional Chief January 6th of this year. And I apologize, I haven't spoken to you earlier, but I've heard mention of it already. We all of course, ran into COVID fairly early in the year. And I know the OPP, much like your municipality and you collectively are dealing with the health emergency that continues on since that time. Of course, a very interesting times to be in policing, and I certainly want to mention, of course, our people have been out from the get-go when the pandemic, continuing to provide police service throughout Central Region, and I think they're doing a great job navigating all the difficulties that come along with the health pandemic, of course. But I wanted to come up to say hello. I've been in policing with the OPP for 31 years. Our home is presently in Oromadani, just outside of Aurelia, near Horseshoe Valley Road, not too far from the SGB community. My wife and I make a regular ventures up here to Midland, and she has relatives in Penetanguishene as well. So we're no strangers to the peninsula. We really love the community up here, and we make a point of coming up and enjoying your amenities, and certainly your bike trails and your wonderful kayaking that it offers up here. So I just wanted to bring greetings from our Central Region Command. I'm accompanied, I have two superintendents, Brad McCallum and Jim Smith. Jim Smith is the superintendent that looks after anything that requires support up here at the detachment. And currently with JP in the chair as the acting inspector, Jim is the direct support to JP. And as well, Joe Evans, who certainly is on the road to recovery. And we expect back very soon. Joe's doing quite well. I really wanted to make a point of saying that our regional headquarters is there. It's not general headquarters, it's the regional headquarters, and the regional headquarters provides direct support to the detachments within Central Region. And I know probably from attending meetings, you'll be well acquainted with the region in general. We are a large region. We come up from Caledon in the south, up to Huntsville, and from Collingwood, all the way across to the Brighton area in Northumberland, and up around the Peterborough area as well. So quite a broad spectrum of diverse Central Ontario land, lots of water, of course, that we have to police, and lots of trailways as well. So you may well be acquainted with, obviously you know about the amalgamation process, and most recently, we've had Orangeville come on side as another OPP jurisdiction, and I was actually down there this weekend, and things seem to be going along quite well there. I was very happy, whether you're aware or not, we had one of the former Midland constables actually go down and speak with the incoming officers from Orangeville, and it was very well received. The member did an excellent job sharing the experience of transition to the OPP, and I know that the incoming Orangeville officers were very grateful for him sharing that experience. So I'm grateful to you for that. It's important that we do share these experiences. So it went a long way for those officers in transition. I am happy to take any questions that you may have from me. What I will pledge is we are putting together a presentation that is kind of a nuts and bolts OPP presentation to talk about who we are and what we do and how we do it. And I look forward to, on the completion of that presentation, bringing it to you. I will ask for some time on your agenda in the future. And I would like to join the detachment commander here and give you an opportunity to view that presentation. I was fortunate to be the provincial lead on it, and we're completing some filming for the presentation presently. And really what that's going to do is, we hope, provide some avenues for discussion about policing service provided by the OPP. It gives a little bit of a framework, and I'm really looking forward to the completion of the project. So By your good grace, I will be able to get some future time on your agenda to present that presentation and have some further discussions with you. So again, I thank you for your time here today, and I really appreciate getting a chance to know you a little bit better, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief, for the introductions. And I don't know, I'll give board members an opportunity to ask any questions they may have. But for myself, thank you again for joining us today and those introductions. And we'll look forward to the item in the near future.
I'd just like to say congratulations on the appointment. Welcome to Central Region. Is that new building in Aurelia yours?
Yes, it is. That's the Aurelia detachment. So ours is down the road a bit further, but it is quite a large building there. It'll have the most officers under one roof when it's completed. And we just got the keys, Mr. Mayor, for that. And we will be moving in November 25th.
Well, congratulations. It's well positioned right next to Costco.
Yes, of course.
Any idea of when we'll see some, I would say stability, but what's happening with the detachment here with respect to leadership? We certainly enjoyed Inspector Evans' tenure here, and are enjoying Inspector Graham's time here as well. It's wonderful that you've got that depth of capability in your organization.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Yes, it's a great question. Presently, Inspector Ferguson is the acting CFO for the province of Ontario. Ironically, that was my former position. I came from the CFO when I was promoted to chief. So he, in fact, is filling the vacancy that I left there. Again, another important job for the province, a very busy location. So what we're doing, in answer to your question, there's presently a leadership competition at the level of chief and superintendent that the OPP is undertaking. That is up and running, and they will be conducting the interview portion over the next 2 weeks on that particular process. Now, Inspector Ferguson is a candidate in that process. So I expect to hear in the near future whether or not he's successful in that process. That will give us an opportunity to move towards, I guess, solidifying the command here. Either Andrew will move on to another role, or he will return here as the commander, in which case we would readjust to that platform, of course. If Andrew is successful and moves on to another position, we will undertake a competitive process here, and that would be open to the inspector candidates and qualified candidates to participate. And I think the great part of that is that the Police Service Board would be represented in that process and participate fully in that process. We've just finished a selection at our Nottawasaga detachment down in New Tecumseh with the new inspector being brought in as the commander there, Steve Rideout. And another competition that was completed most recently was in Northumberland, where we involved, they actually have a multiple police services boards over there. And I believe we had 5 representatives participate in that selection process. And Jeff Martin was the successful candidate there. So we look forward to doing the same thing here. If it necessitates it, we're certainly hopeful. Andrew brings a lot of great leadership qualities to the table, and I have no doubt he'll do very well in the competition, but that's yet to be seen what the outcome of that will be.
Thank you, Chief. And I just want to add too that the municipality, the service provided by the OPP to the municipality has not gone unnoticed in terms of the population has commented very positively on the OPP's activities. And I'd like to personally say that the street crimes unit has done a fabulous job of dealing with some of the crack houses, et cetera, dealers and so on in the community.
Yes.
There's a lot more to do, but they've really done a great job in terms of kicking the door open, so to speak.
Yes.
I want to thank the detachment for those efforts.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. It's somewhat regrettable that there is so much work to be done, but it really relies on a high level of community engagement for the success of those units, a high level of cooperation between the detachment personnel, basically the work done out on the street, and then the more specialized work of the actual units. And I know that cooperation and that collaboration along with the community has been very successful. And yes, it'd be great if one day we didn't need them to do so much work, and hopefully through other measures socially we'll be getting there a little closer to that mark. But I really appreciate your comments on the good work of the Community Street Crimes Unit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, any other questions of the chief, board members?
No, not for me. Thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, we can move on to item 7 on our agenda, which are the detachment reports that I understand will be provided to us by our detachment, acting detachment commander, the Inspector Graham. So, and incidentally, if Chief Dwight needs to make an exit now, he should certainly feel free to do that at any time.
So thank you very much, everybody, and I wish you all the best with your deliberations today.
Thank you.
All the best to you as well. So I guess in that case, over to you, Inspector Graham.
Inspector Graham, would you like me to share the presentation at this time?
Yes, of course. We'll just give you an overview of, it'll segue nicely into the quarterly report. If we just give you an overview of calls to service and how we've been dealing with some of those calls through the pandemic, as we all were kind of dealing with these uncertain times.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can go on to the next slide. Everybody's good with seeing the screen?
Yeah.
Sorry, the chief was just leaving the room. So earlier on this year, the province declared a state of emergency in March of this year, which hindered non-essential services and group gatherings. This had a significant reduction in the movement of people and goods. And the overview that I'm going to present to you is in relation to the overall calls to service and some of the impacts that we dealt with violent crimes, property crimes, and mental health calls. We can go to the next slide, please. So as you can see, for the overall calls to service and comparable to 2019 to this year, given the fact that we were working through a pandemic, we've seen a significant decrease on those calls to service, certainly in relation to violent crime and property crime calls for service. And that dropped significantly after March of this year. We can go to the next slide. One thing that you might notice in particular to our mental health calls, as soon as the state had declared a state of emergency given the health pandemic, we've seen a significant jump in our mental health calls in March of this year compared to last year, which we've seen 114 percentile increase in those calls to service. And then as people started settling into understanding some of the regulations or even the pandemic itself and some of the risks associated to the virus, we started seeing a decrease of those calls to service and really leveraging our community partners to assist us in helping people get through these uncertain times. We've seen a little bit of a spike in our mental health domestic calls to service in August of this year, and I think it was just in relation to the uncertainty of whether or not families were getting back ready for school and the end of the summer vacation. There's a certain correlation between the two. If we can go to the next call, please, or next slide. Our traffic enforcement, as we started shifting some of our priorities from answering and investigating those calls to service, we started seeing an increase of people moving around within our province, and our officers were able to focus on proactive policing and looking at the traffic enforcement side of ensuring our roadways and highways are safe. So you've seen a slight increase and then consistent productivity from our members throughout the year. Next slide. As you referenced, Your Worship, in terms of the work that our Community Street Crime Unit has been doing, there really hasn't been a dip in terms of drug offenses in our communities. In fact, it's been quite consistent in terms of the substance abuse and people seeking those illicit drugs. So our teams have been very proactive with our frontline uniform officers in trying to deal with the substance abuse issues that this community certainly is seeing these days. If you want to go to the next slide, please. And then as COVID and the pandemic certainly came upon this province and really gripped this province, one thing that I can certainly say to you is, as other businesses and agencies had taken a pause on trying to deal with this pandemic, I'm very privileged to say that your officers and the officers of Southern Georgian Bay did not miss a beat in terms of answering those calls for service and trying to assist in supporting our communities and trying to work through this pandemic. And as you may notice, in April, once the state had declared an emergency given this pandemic, our call volume in terms of COVID-19 related calls had significantly jumped and certainly created a high level of stress on our members. But they had risen to the occasion. We shifted our methods in delivering our service in person by donning personal protection equipment, and we continue to do so to this day. And that certainly is the end of the slide deck presentation. Just to give you an overview of what Southern Georgian Bay was dealing with in terms of the pandemic this year, as well as in comparison to what happened in 2019. And I certainly subject myself to any questions or comments if the board wants to go back to any of those slide decks. I can certainly try to add some further context to those numbers.
Yeah. I had a question, Inspector. It seems pretty clear that the calls for service are appreciably down from the same period in the prior year. Now, I obviously sort of 1 year to the next, there can just be a fair measure of random variation. What's your understanding about what's happened in other parts of the province or in other parts of the central region? Are calls for service down across the board, or are we seeing is what's happening in Midland something that's more local in nature?
No, that's a good question. I would have to say that in terms of central region, our overall calls to service had decreased depending on the areas that we're policing within this region or even its province. Some of the community pressures and individual challenges had those calls on the increase. Like for Huntsville specifically, I can tell you that domestic violence and mental health calls had taken a significant jump for the first 3 months of this pandemic, where we didn't think at that point in time we were going to actually see a decrease. And I think it was just in terms of the anxiety and the stress level on those families, not being at work, not knowing what the next day is going to bring. But, I think every municipality has their own unique set of challenges, but the common theme here is that we've seen a decrease in some of those calls to service across the board. So it's not unique to this community, but overall, it was an impact for us. With that being said, though, I would say the latter part of that is we've seen substance abuse increase, mental health increase, impaired driving increase, and our traffic enforcement efforts has certainly increased because of that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. Other questions from board members about the update?
I do. So I'm not sure if you see me, Chair Dixon.
I did just now, Deputy Mayor. So please go ahead.
Through you, I had a couple. Through you, I had a couple questions. One's, is there any type of forecast now that we're, I know this COVID-19 is new to all of us, but is there a forecast that the police see as we move into the winter months, more people inside, not being able to, the mental health issues, I presume, get worse as you're locked into your house, minus 20 degrees outside, except I wasn't sure if the police services had forecasted January, February, more calls to service, or is that something that's sort of monitored on a daily or weekly basis? And I do have a second question if I could, but I'll wait.
No, that's a good question. I think we're better positioned now than we were when the pandemic first came out, in terms of the information that we're being provided by our health units, certainly internally as well as externally. One of the things that I can certainly tell you is that there's ongoing conversation not only amongst the police but amongst our community partners in terms of the mental health wellness of our community, and some of try to leverage some of those relationships and some of those services to address some of the pressures within a family unit. Schools are back and running again, which allows a little bit of that freedom, I guess you could say, instead of being locked down in your house. And I think the government is doing a fairly good job in terms of having that measured approach and restricting some of the rules to try to again flatten the curve as we're already in the second wave.
Well, thank you very much. And I can't stress enough the great work that the police are doing for our community. And I want to thank you for that. You know, part of my concern obviously is with Christmas coming, and people aren't going to be able to get together with their families, etc. The depression rate, I presume, is going to go through the roof over the December, January, but we'll hopefully monitor. And I want to thank you. I have a second question. It's nothing to do with mental health. It's to do with e-bikes and bicycles. We're getting a little bit of pushback from a community group in our area that are quite concerned about the speed of the e-bikes on our trails and actually even bicycles, the speed. Is there anything you could suggest? I know obviously bikes and e-bikes will be going away for the winter and the trails will be covered with snow, so it really won't be a big concern. I'm guessing for the next, 3 or 4 months, but I sure would like to be prepared come April. Is there anything we can do as a township or a town to monitor these bikes or slow them down, or I'd hate, an accident, somebody get hurt. So I thought, well, I had you here, I would take full advantage and ask the question. So when I know it's going to come up at our meeting on Wednesday, that I could have at least a valid answer from our police.
Yeah, I do think that we can probably work together in terms of a number of things. One of them is really educating the public, engaging them on all social media platforms before the trails reopen. Trying to engage some of the user groups in terms of some of the rules, again, it comes down to respecting your fellow user of that trail, and then whether or not we can work together on enacting any sort of bylaw enforcement and working with your bylaw officers in terms of trying to police those trails and the use of those trails. We have officers that are trained on bicycle patrol and utilizing the bikes to go out there and engage the community. So I think there's a lot of options there, and bringing people together to be able to discuss them is probably the best start to trying to solidify a plan before May comes around.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And we'll have some bit of work ahead of us for the next few months, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further questions from board members of the inspector?
Chair Dixon, it's Dave Deno here.
Yeah, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Chair, and not really a question. Deputy Mayor did ask a question that I was curious about, and in terms of anticipating where we're going through the winter months. But I would like to express certainly the appreciation of certainly all the town administration to the inspector. He's the detachment and the inspector is a really important partner for us as we continue to manage, the services that we provide. And I just wanted to express our appreciation for how collaborative they are and thank them for that, as well as protecting our community. Like the inspector, I think we're better prepared with what's coming at us this winter. I think we're all expecting to have a difficult winter ahead of us, and we're preparing accordingly. We have a new framework from the province to manage through, which I think will result in some confusion with the public that we're trying to help bridge with communication. So we're being very collaborative on that standpoint. But first and foremost, I just wanted to express our appreciation, and the fact that we work so closely together, I think is one of the reasons why I think we're doing relatively well, and we'll continue to place the appropriate focus on this.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Any other questions of the inspector?
I have a question for the inspector, Chair Dixon. I received a complaint through Mayor LaRue about students congregating in Huronia Mall, both in the common areas and in some of the stores. And total disregard for social distancing, total disregard for wearing of masks. He had received a number of, it's kind of interesting because I didn't hear a thing about it, but he received a lot of complaints from, by a lot, in excess of a dozen, I understand, from his residents. Subsequent to that, up on King Street, and apparently there are of students from St. Teresa's around the strip mall across the street from the Toyota dealership, and also around the Tim Horton west side of the street, south of the Toyota dealership, and the Chevy. There's a lot of just bad behavior, a lot of swearing, very vocal, pushing and shoving, disregard for social distancing, again, disregard no wearing masks. And there have been a couple of cruisers have been dispatched to the site apparently, and as soon as the cruisers leave, the behaviors begin again. And so I'm just wondering, sort of like the business with Diwali down in Brampton this weekend, whether or not we shouldn't be moving to charging these folks as opposed to just a warning or a drive-by, and so escalate the response to some of these behaviors, because sooner I believe we've been very fortunate in the low incidence of COVID in our community. These flagrant disregard behaviors, disregarding health unit and directions and the direction of the provincial government seems to me sooner or later it's going to have a bad ending. So I just wonder if it isn't time to charge a couple of these kids, maybe smarten them up a bit, which is kind of weird coming from me because I'm not usually the one to be suggesting that sort of thing. Just to care to comment.
I think we've been having ongoing good discussions about that throughout our detachments. I think people become very relaxed and fall into a routine where I think with the second wave we need to be a little more vigilant and aware of some of the rules and regulations. Our school resource officer has returned to work and is working with trying to message that strongly through the school board, as well as reaching out to the parents of those children, and then working with our local health unit as well as bylaw in terms of any enforcement action that needs to be taken with some of these gatherings. It is quite frustrating, and we get that sense of that in terms of we're in the second wave. This virus and this pandemic is not going away anytime soon. Southern Georgian Bay is certainly not immune to having the community spread, and we want to make sure that we kind of maintain a certain line of defense when it comes to that community spread, and then we want to approach it, on various levels. I think you're right. One charge may have that ripple effect where it certainly changes that behavior in the short term, but we want to make sure that as we go into the winter months that it's going to be sustainable in terms of people's behaviors and looking at how do we protect ourselves from this community spread. And we're hoping to leverage the school board in terms of maybe using them as they can take some discipline action with those children during school hours, and getting the parents completely involved in whether or not those children should be at school if they're not going to be following the rules laid out by the province.
I understand our experience with the school board on municipal issues has been non-response from the boards. So I don't think I'm alone and would be alone in saying that. The boards just seem to, if they're off school property, not our problem. Other issues, the boards are they put up a wall. And I know from mayor's meeting in Aurelia that one of the mayors there is a former high school principal, and he's indicated that the board does have the ability to expel. I mean, these schools are no different than long-term care homes. You've got concentrated groups of people in high concentrations in closed spaces. And while young people, their predisposition to the disease seems to be a little less than, say, somebody my age, nonetheless, they get into a home environment or they just start doing these things. It just strikes me that once they leave that school, the school board is oblivious to them. And so the community then, they start interacting with the community. And even if your school officer were to take some of these students back and identify them to the principal has the ability, apparently, to expel these kids. Now, that's a little different remedy than a charge. I mean, I get that a charge has some life-altering implications, whereas an expulsion can. But I think something needs to be done here because we are getting into a time of the year where we're all going to be cooped up inside, despite efforts to get people out and participate in outdoor activities in the wintertime. And so I just think that I appreciate that there's different tiers of response. But I think once those kids get in the community, unless an agency within the community brings them back and identifies them to the board and puts the onus on the board to start dealing with it, it's just going to continue. One person's thought anyway. But I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
No, you made some very valid points, Sarah.
I will second that, Mayor Strathern. As a resident in the community of MSS, the same thing is going on at this end of town.
Yeah.
It's a severe problem, and the seniors around here are quite concerned because they don't make way for us on the sidewalks. And they are quite proud of their lack of masks and behaviors. They're very much doing it deliberately. So whatever recourse we have or whatever solutions we can all have as a community beyond policing, we all need to come together in some way and involve these kids in our lives as well as their own lives. They need to understand how many other people they impact as well. And I don't know what the answers are to that.
I think certainly we're all in this together, no matter your age.
Yes.
Yeah, just a thought off the top of my head. The only good thing to be said about sort of young people congregating outside is that it is outside, at least, and there's presumably much less risk of transmission from one young person to another, or from you or me walking by them on the sidewalk. But that's a function just of how the disease spreads inside versus outside, and not because of any good behavior on the part of those young folks.
So I have just one other question, and it has to do with the report, and it's on the motor vehicle collisions by type. And I noticed that there's a significant jump in 20, significant being 5, I suppose, or 6 as opposed to 1, in terms of fatalities. And I'm just, is that the one accident where we had a number of fatalities, or is that a number of individual accidents, and what might be behind that? I see alcohol's played a role in at least 2 of them by the looks of it.
Yeah, so that's the individual accidents, and where people had succumbed to their injuries. One of the things I was going to talk about is certainly as we look at the significant decrease of calls to service overall for the municipality, we've seen a spike in alcohol-related collisions and one fatality on our highway is way too many. I can report back to you though, overall this year that Southern Georgia Bay had arrested and charged 148 impaired drivers this year alone, which is significant from last year, as well as they've suspended 75 individual driver's license based on drinking and driving. And that's in terms of where people were blowing into the roadside screen device and administering an alert. So they probably shouldn't be driving, but they were when they decided to consume a couple of beverages and then get on the road, which was not safe and a poor choice on their part. So as we look at these numbers, we are always evaluating and altering our plans to address these types of issues within our community. And we want to be very pointed, very tactical, and very specific in terms of the individuals that are driving on our roadways, that we're out there full force, and we are out there arresting people and that are drinking and driving out on our streets and making it dangerous for everybody else. But that was one thing that I was able to that I'd seen as a spike in this quarter. But we're certainly out there doing the good work that we're supposed to be doing in terms of trying to curb those incidents.
Mm-hmm. Any further questions, board members, of the inspector on this part of his report?
One other comment that I wanted to make, Chair, is I have to give credit to the two staff sergeants that are working out of Southern Georgia Bay. To the deputy's point in terms of the second wave that we're already in, and the winter months that we're going to be going into, and the stress and the anxiety that people may be faced with. They devised a plan to enhance our mobile crisis unit, and working with a subject matter expert, a crisis intervention worker, to be able to certainly address some of those pressures as we kind of go into the winter months. So it was a plan that was devised. It was something that we certainly forecast, and the plan was put in place by the two staff sergeants here.
Oh, very good. Inspector, I'm looking at our agenda, and I see under item 7.3, there's a listing for Southern Georgian Bay Detachment Action Plan. Is that something you wish to speak to us about today, or?
Well, what I wanted to indicate to the board is that we're currently, framing our next strategic plan, which is a plan that identifies long-term goals and priorities and commitments to the communities that we serve. And it's a vehicle that we're able to refer to in terms of some of the decision making that we apply in reaching those long-term goals. And I'm certainly open to any suggestions that the Police Services Board may have in terms of developing that plan. Our plan last year talked about, our last 3-year plan talked about reducing victimizations and violent crimes, property crimes, cyber crimes and frauds. And certainly we talked about trying to collaborate more on the mental health challenges and the well-being of our community. I would suspect that a 3-year plan, you may not garnish the results that you hope to in terms of significant, resolving those issues. But I think that's some of those themes or some of those goals are going to maintain in our current plan for the future. but certainly open to some of the suggestions that the Police Services Board may have or want to see in our plan for the next 3 years.
Oh, okay. And how would you wish the board to communicate those to you? In a future meeting, in written form?
So I can take any of the suggestions and, by written form in an email. As we kind of, like I said, we're framing up that plan right now. We're working through and developing that plan for the next 3 years. And if there's any underlining challenges that you see with the community that we play a part in, I certainly am open to an email, even if it's a phone conversation from any board member here, and having some of those discussions. I'm happy to be part of the community wellness plan that myself and the mayor is participating in. I think establishing that plan for our community would segue nicely into our action plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, perhaps then I can ask our board secretary, just in case it's become lost in our electronic, in board members' electronic files somewhere, perhaps to forward us all the current, detachment strategic plan. So we could take a look at that and refresh ourselves on that, and maybe get the juices flowing then in terms of input to the new or the updated plan the inspectors working on.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll do that.
Did I happen to send the plan out for you, as well as the progress report for 2019? Did I send that to you already?
We have the plan on our website, the previous plan. There is a link on our website on our board page. I'm not sure, we may have received the update at the end of, or at the beginning of 2020 for 2019.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I'll send that to you after our meeting today, the actual plan, and then a 2019 progress report on that plan.
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious, was the inspector, have you received a copy of the goals and objectives that the board worked on with Inspector Evan?
I didn't see that at all, Your Worship, in terms of the goals from the board.
The board sat down, I'm going to say 6 months ago or so, and with the inspector and as a group, and went through and created, in fact, I'm having trouble remembering it now. I should put it where it's a little more accessible rather than filing it under. I have a bad habit of filing everything under the, and then I can't find anything.
Yeah.
So, but it exists, and it was sort of it was a document which which outlined the board's concerns and aspirations for the community.
I'm sure our board secretary will have that material at hand.
Actually, I do have it. We've got it on our website, and I can share it on the screen if you'd like to do that now, or I can circulate it after the meeting.
Sure. Why don't you put it up on the screen now so we can refresh ourselves? That's great. Thank you.
Okay, just one moment.
Mm-hmm.
process.
I'm finding the screen I'm just on a tablet, so I'm finding the type very difficult to read. So perhaps then circulating. If others can see it, fine. But I think for myself, I will need to have it sent electronically.
I can share that after the meeting.
Thank you.
Is that, does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So are there further questions then or observations? Any board members wish to make on agenda item 7, the catch-all for detachment reports, or for that matter, any other comments from the inspector? So in that case, to move on, can I have a motion that the third quarter 2020 board report and third quarter calls for service billing report as presented by the Southern Georgian Bay Acting Detachment Commander be received for information? Do we have a mover for that?
So moved.
Member Clapperton seconded.
Deputy Mayor Ross.
Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. So thank you very much, Inspector, for your thorough report and your help to the board with all of this. And again, I'll also add my voice to congratulate all the members of the detachment on the fine work that's being done.
Thank you so much. It's certainly a privilege of ours to serve our community.
Yeah, well, thank you all again. Moving on then to item 8 in our agenda, board members. We have a financial report from the town treasury department. If anybody have any comment or question about that, and if not, would somebody care to move adoption of that, or receiving that report for information?
I'll move that.
Mayor Strathern seconded.
Deputy Mayor Ross.
Deputy Mayor Ross, all in favor? That's carried. Next agenda item, 8.2, the board remuneration report. Somebody care to move adoption of that?
Deputy Mayor Ross.
And a seconder.
I'll second.
Mayor Strathern, all in favor? That's carried. So I think that then takes us to other, in our following along our agenda page, that takes us to other business. Seeing no hands up and no voices, Then the next item on our agenda is the 2021 meeting schedule. And I believe our board secretary has a proposal that would follow the same pattern we have followed this year. Am I correct about that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, last year or this year, we had 4 meetings quarterly. We had one in February, one in May, one in August, and today, November. So we could continue that schedule next year, and I can circulate dates to the board if you would like.
Yeah, I think we don't absolutely have to finalize that today, but yes, I think that would be very helpful, and we can obviously adopt it before February, or at least determine a February meeting date before the day rolls around.
Did you want to decide on the February date today?
That's fine by me. What if we followed the same schedule of meeting on a Monday morning of, I believe it's the council week? Is that suitable for all the board members?
So those dates are either February 1st or February the 15th.
Okay.
Oh, I think the Monday is probably a holiday, the 15th.
Oh, yeah, okay, Family Day.
So we could either do the 1st or the 8th.
Right. What do we think about the 1st?
Works for me.
I'm fine with either date.
Yep. Me likewise. So, and it is a council meeting week, so that may help. Okay, so February 1st, it is then, and at that meeting we can establish the schedule for the rest of next year, and perhaps circulate draft between now and February 1st, draft dates.
I can circulate that.
Okay. So, I believe that then completes our regular agenda. I know I've heard Member Ross indicate that he did wish to discuss an item in a closed session. Because we're holding this meeting electronically, Rogers will cease broadcasting this open session shortly, and we will have to report to our February meeting on any items that any motions or instructions that are given as a result of our closed session. So on that basis, then, can I have a motion that we now adjourn this open meeting of the Midland Police Services Board and perhaps take a 5-minute bio break and then return to our closed session to conclude today's meeting.
We use a different code. We use a different code, I presume, to call in, Angela?
Yes, I do have another link set up in a different invitation. So everybody can leave this meeting after we pass the motion. Everyone can leave the meeting, and Rogers is still on, but once we pass the motion, then we can end the meeting and move into the open session or the closed session, sorry.
Oh, okay. So then I think Member Clapperton moved adjournment. All in favor, which will close this open session. All in favor of that?
Yes.
I see at least 3 of us. So that is carried and we stand adjourned.
Take care, Inspector.
We'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you, Inspector.
Okay.